Okay, good morning everyone. So let me share my screen. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so as we told in the demo class, you will be hitting your client application from your browser. So you will have your browser, and in the browser you will be doing all the login, registration, and you're checking your notes and everything in the client in the browser. So that is nothing but your client application. And for each and every request, the browser is going to contact your Spring backend application. So it's a web application. So where you will write all the code to get the data from the database and pass it to the client application. So the Spring web application, it will be fetching the data from database layer and sending back to the browser. So apart from fetching data from database and sending back to the browser, it will do so many other functionalities and some security authentication. So it is going to call some other applications, similar web applications. Okay, so it will do a lot of stuff, web application and the database layer. So we are going to start with the database layer and SQL. So in the database layer, so whatever the data the client is providing from the browser, suppose you are registering for your for your application like something like Facebook or any Gmail. So you are creating your new Gmail ID. Okay, so that Gmail ID and your data, whatever your first name, last name, your email ID, your date of birth, so your address, everything will be stored in the database layer. Okay, so the browser send this data to web application, Spring Boot application. The Spring Boot application will send this data to the database. So ultimately, all your physical data will be stored in the database layer. Okay, so this is database layer. We have so many database RDBMS implementations in the market. Okay, so if you take any like right now we have so many databases. If you take the most popular one, like Oracle database, and Oracle has one more database that is MySQL, and from Microsoft we have SQL Server. From IBM we have DB2 and DB, and the NoSQL databases like MongoDB. So all these databases, that be DB2, SQL Server, MySQL, and Oracle database, all these will follow RDBMS. So they will follow RDBMS structure. Okay, suppose like in future, one of you want to make your own database, you have to follow the RDBMS structure. So all the databases in the market, they will follow the Relational Database Management System procedure. Okay, so what is a RDBMS? So RDB means Relational Database Management System. So Relational Database Management System. So initially, in early 1970, it all started with, for SQL, it is all started with in 1970. So initially, is one person, EF code. This person, EF code, he designed initially a relational model. How a relational model should be. Like initially, he put a design for the relational model. So like what a relation model, what rules it has to follow, what is the structure of the relation model. Initially he developed a basic structure for the relational model, and after that, after this person, IBM, after this EF code, IBM has developed some more structure on this relational model. They take this, IBM take this base from the EF code, and they added some other features. And after that, after IBM, Oracle came into picture, and Oracle developed some more on the relational model, and finally Oracle developed their own database and they started using in their own applications. Okay, so after that, they like once it is working finally in their internal application, they make it publicly available for the corporate applications. So initially it is developed by EF code. So these are like relational model. So they thought of using relational model. So they added like they created a structure how a relational model should be and what rules it should follow, what are the basic rules, how what where like all the principles they they like added to the relational model. So after that, IBM take this and they added some more features, and Oracle finally they added some more features and they started developing a basic relational model system, RDBM system, and they started using in their internal application, and finally they released for the other corporate like companies. Okay, so what is relational model? Okay, so if you know already a like any SQL system already, if you know, a relational model is nothing but a table. Okay, so what this relational model will tell? Okay, so in database, everything should be stored in a relational model, means everything should be stored in a table. Okay, so this table name should be unique. You should be able to identify your table with the name. Okay, suppose if you name your table as something like customer, it should be unique. You are not able to create one more table with the same name. Okay, so you will be able to identify your table with this name customer anywhere in the database. So there is a first rule. So your relation model should have a name unique. Okay, so in the table mostly you will contain rows, right? So each table will contain number of rows. You can say rows or tuples. So each table will contain a number of rows. You can say rows or tuples, and each row should be identified. Like each row it should not be duplicated. So suppose if you take this as a student table, right? Or it's a note, something like note or student. So we can't store two student like one student name two times. Suppose if you stored one Suresh, one student details like Suresh, uh, let me tell you like what rows should contain. Like if you have a table, if it is a relational table, it should contain like a number of rows, right? So what each row should contain? Okay, so each row should contain this table attributes. Okay, so normally what attributes will contain for a student? Will have his ID, like student ID, student underscore ID, and his name, and his age, and his branch, something like that. So this is the like table, this table main attributes. Okay, so for a student table, for a student relational model, this model should contain like unique attributes like student ID, student name, age, and branch. Okay, so these attributes should not repeat. This should be unique. Each attribute should be unique from the other one. Okay, and each attribute should have their own attributes. So the student ID can be a like can be an integer or string or anything like any date or anything. So student name should be anything like it can be name. It will be a name, right? So age will be a number and branch should be a like a string. Okay, so for a table there should be some unique attributes, And for each attribute, you should be saving a unique value. Like so, his personal like relational model details. What are the relational model we have here is student, right? For the student, we should be storing each and every record. So this record should be unique from each and every other record. It should not be duplicated. Suppose let me say one record, something like the student ID is 1 and his name is something like Suresh and his age is something like 20 and his branch is like CSC. So these are the values we are storing for each and every attribute, right? So this is a row. Student ID, student name, age, and branch. This is one row. And if you are going to add one more student details, like student ID is 2, if his name is something like John, and his age is 20, and if he is from IT. So this is one more row. So right now in my relational model, I have two rows. One row is for the student ID 1, and the second row is for the student ID 2. So what are the properties it will have, right? So each and every row should be unique from the other row. So I can't store one more row with the same details. Okay, so I will have it student ID 3 and I will keep the same name, age and branch. So that is not allowed. So each row should be identified. It will not be duplicated. It should be unique from the other row. Okay, so and each and every attribute, suppose the student ID and student name. So student ID we have 1 and student name we have Suresh, right? So these should be also unique from each and every other column value. So you will like if you want to save something like student ID is 1 and the student name also something like 1, it's not allowed. Like each and every column value should be unique from the other column value. It should be atomic. Okay, so the main properties are the relational model should be unique, this table name should be unique, and it should have some proper like each row should be unique from the other row and each column value should be atomic and it should be different from the other value. So so this is the main RDBMS relational model. So every database in the market like Oracle, everything will follow this RDBMS structure. So they will follow this RDBMS procedure and they will create their own database. Okay, so once the database is created by any vendor, Oracle or Microsoft, so the database, whatever the database they are created, so we are going to use our database, right? So if you want to use that database, you need SQL. So this SQL is nothing but structured query language. You need SQL to use the RDBMS system. So with SQL language, structured query language, it's a language like Java, like how the Java language they build up, right? So similarly, SQL also it's a language which will be used to access the RDBMS system. So if you have a RDBMS system like Oracle or SQL Server, you need SQL to access the data and insert the data. All the operations you can do using the SQL. Okay. So till now clear? Any doubts? So now we are going to install one MySQL server in my system and we will create sample database and we will create a sample table. So I will show you how to install like a MySQL server in your system and to create a database and table. So that is my next step. So before moving to that, do you have any doubts? Yeah. Okay. So right now I'm going to download MySQL server for Windows. Okay. So I'm going to download MySQL Server for Windows because I'm using Windows 10 laptop right now. So that's why it's a 64-bit operating system. So I need to download MySQL Server. So if you type this in your browser, okay, so the first link, it will take you to the download page. So it's saying MySQL, download MySQL community server. Okay, so let me click on this link. Okay, okay, so here you can see this is MySQL community downloads, and if you see here, so this is the MySQL community server. So this is the community server which is available for free. Okay, so there are some other servers, they are not free, but this community server is free. You can use this for as part of our documents. Okay, so this is the community server, but if you see that down, like there is one more link to installer. So if you want to install the MySQL community server yourself directly, you can install that. But if you want to install a installer to install the server for yourself, you can install the installer. You have two options. You can directly install the server, or you can use the installer to install the server. Okay, so I will go for installer. Okay, this is my MySQL installer. It is showing that MySQL installer 8.0.31. So this is the latest version which is available right now. Okay, but so every time when you are installing any software, it should be internally dependent to your Java version. Okay, so you have to check properly. Like if you take a latest version, so it needs your latest JDK version also. You should have your JDK Java latest version in your system. Okay, so right now we have JDK nearly 17 version, right? So maybe it required this JDK 17 version. So I will try to download a older version which is compatible with JDK 10 or 8. Okay, so right now it is showing that 8.0.30. I'm going to install something around 15. Okay, so I selected product version 8.0.15. So I think it will be compatible with JDK 8 and above. Okay, so if you select this product version 8.0.15 and operating system Microsoft Windows, you have two options here. One is Windows x86 32-bit MS installer. So for 64-bit also it will be like they don't have a separate version for 64-bit. So like whatever the version 32-bit, it will support both 32 and 64-bit. Okay, so that's why both the options saying 32-bit. So in these two options, you have the first one size is 16.4 MB. Okay, the second one is 324.3 MB. So this installer means like why the first one size is less and the second one size is more. So the first one means it will just download the exe file and it will start getting the downloads from the MySQL site. It will not directly download everything to your system. Just it will install the installer, basic installer, and the installer will like download the installables from the MySQL site. Okay, so that's why it's the size is very less. But this 324 means it will download everything into your local system, and it will keep the it will use the files which are already downloaded in your system. So it won't connect to any MySQL server to get the files. So if you have a good internet connection, then you can go for the first option. But if you don't have any good internet connection, just you have the file, then you have to download this file. So this will work in the offline mode also, 324. But for this first one, you need good internet connection, and it will download files from the MySQL site. Okay, so I will go for the first one. So the file is downloaded. Let me go to downloads. So I can see MySQL installer web community 8.0.15. Okay, so let me click on this, right click on this and open with Windows installer Ramesh. Okay, directly click on open. Okay, so it is asking for like administration. This is my system, so that's it. It won't ask my admin password. Do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? Click on yes. So it started with MySQL installer. So mandatory MySQL installer update available. To continue using catalog, you must apply this upgrade. For now, I click on no. So MySQL documentation. This is the MySQL installer page. Okay, so using this MySQL installer, you can download your MySQL community server. Right now, like we are not started with the MySQL community server. Okay, just it is the installer. Okay, so this is normal MySQL documentation and some sample examples they are showing. Let me click on add. Okay, so it is asking me the license agreement. Okay, so what we can do with this product. So what we have, what we do, what we cannot do with this product. Okay, so we can use this product. Like in this page, what they will say, you can use this product, but you can't modify this product, and you can create your own server. Okay, mostly they will write in this license agreement. So I need to click on this checkbox and click on next. So there you can see two options here, like two boxes. The first one, the left side is available products, and the right side is products features to be installed. Okay, so right now you don't have any, you didn't added anything to be installed in your system. Okay, so let me add something to install. Expand this MySQL servers and MySQL server and MySQL server 8.0. This one. Okay, so I'm adding this MySQL server 8.0.15 x64 version. So you need to click on this arrow which is pointing to right side. Okay, so if you have something in your product features to be installed section, then only it will be installed. Okay, so this is the product features to be installed section. So you need to add this to your to be installed section, and then only it will be installed. Okay, now let's click on next. So sample products has path conflicts. So here use the same folder, change it in new one, take in mind that sorry. Okay. So already earlier I installed this, so I installed today. I uninstalled that old one today, so that's why it is showing me that path conflict. But if you are installing for the first time, it won't have anything. Okay. So
Satya,
installation directory. Yeah,
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 sorry. To,
yeah.
if you go to the back, can you please go back to the back again if you don't?
Okay. This one, right?
No, no, no. In that installation itself, can you please click on the back button?
Okay.
Okay, here we
Yeah.
have applications and the MySQL connector. What is the use
Okay.
of those?
So yeah, so this is the MySQL server, like the actual MySQL database system, and this connector, right? So this connector means, so if you want to connect your MySQL database from any other third-party system, like if you want to connect from Java, or if you want to connect from Python, if you want to connect from .NET, so all these languages, right? If you want to connect from that particular language to your MySQL database, so they will provide a jar file, and that jar file we have to use as part of your Python language or core Java. Suppose if you want to connect from your Java to MySQL database, how will connect? So right now what you are doing, we are installing the MySQL server in your system, and directly we'll go to the MySQL server. Like we don't need any other we are not connecting from any Java or Python language.
Okay.
So if you want to connect from Java language or Python, .NET, C++, you need a connector file. So this connector file also will be developed by the MySQL team. Okay, and they will provide jar, and we have to use this jar to, like in that jar, they will provide all the database connection, driver details, and database connection statement. They will provide all the implementations. Just we have to like what we have to do in the from the core Java perspective, what we have to do, we have to register the driver, and we have to get a connection, and we have to get the statement object, and then we can fire the queries to the database from the core Java. Okay, so to do all those things, you need a connector file. Okay, so if you see this connector slash j, this is the file, this is the jar we are going to use for the Java. If you want to connect your MySQL server from your Java, then we can use this connector j file. Okay, and these applications, I hope some command workbench. If you see workbench means normally how we will connect to database, we can directly connect to the database by using the command prompt. But every database vendor, they will provide some client. So some workbench and some studio, they will provide some application which in that application you can connect to the database and you can do all the database operations, right? So it's like a MySQL, it's like a Eclipse editor. If you take Eclipse editor, right? So how we are going to write proper code in the, and it will provide all the basic functionality, right? So similarly, they will provide some application where you can do all the database related functionality in that application. Okay, so for MySQL, they will provide MySQL Workbench or client. Sometimes they will say MySQL Workbench client. And for SQL Server, they have SQL Server Management Studio. So these are the client applications which we will use to connect to the database and do some operations on the in the user interface. So right now I'm going for only just server. So slowly I will add the workbench. Okay, because I want to show like how actually have what's happening in the database internally. Okay, so after one or two classes, I will add this workbench and I will show you how to connect to your MySQL database from the workbench.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so here it's showing me in which folder of my system the application my MySQL community server is installing. Okay, so the server is installing in program files, MySQL and MySQL Server 8.0. Okay, so let's click on this. Next, you still have one with your, okay. So right now it is ready to download MySQL Server 8.0.15. Okay, so if you click on this execute, it will start downloading. So this option you have to use the installer if you have a good internet connection. Otherwise, you can download it directly download this 324 MB file, and it will stay simply like you need to. It will be very simple. Like it won't connect to any other external site. So this is ready, completed, and let's click on next. This is ready to configure now. Product configuration. Yeah, let's click on next. So here it is asking some InnoDB cluster setup, and but we need a like basic MySQL server for our training. So just I'm selecting the standalone MS SQL server. Okay, so is this sandbox InnoDB cluster setup, it is for like cloud. If you want more instances, then we can go for this second option. But right now we need only the standalone MySQL server. So I'm choosing the first one and clicking on next. Okay, so this type and networking page. Okay, so see this page for like don't click on next by default. Okay, so see this page and see like your MySQL connect server is running at port number 3306. Okay, so this is the port number. What is this port? Why we need a port? Okay, so in Windows every application will be running at a particular port. Okay, so every application, if you take any application in your phone also, any application, it will be working at a particular port. So if one application is working at one port, other applications can't work at that port. It will be unique for every application. Okay, so each application we can identify with is its domain name, like it's a system name and port. Suppose we are installing the MySQL server in my laptop, right? So this can be connected from other systems. anybody's system by using the my laptop system name and port. We need these two details to connect to this server. So remember this port number 3306, and we don't need to check any other options in the system in this page. Yeah.
Is it a standard port 3306 for a MySQL?
Yeah, so by default, MySQL team, they will use this by default, this port. Like they will by default, they are using this port, 3306. So some applications, they will use their default ports. If you take Tomcat server, it will be running at 80 port, 80.
Okay.
Okay, if you take WebSphere server, it will be running at 8080 port. Okay,
Oh,
so like something like all the SMTP like
it's a
443
25.
some they, yeah, some ports they will by default they will use. Like if you're developing your own application, so you will see what are all the ports. The ports will range from like so many. It will be three digit, 4 digit also. It will take. So you will take a new port, right? So if nobody using that port, then you will take that port and you will make it as a default port for you. Okay, but
Yep.
when you are installing this, if this port is not available, you can choose some other port which is available. That's not a problem. Okay, but by default MySQL will suggest this port to use.
Oh,
Okay, so let me click on next. Use strong password encryption for authentication. So it brings your default authentication. So I'm using the by default option. Use legacy authentication method. So this is in this legacy authentication method, they are going to, it will be like username password kind of thing. So but in the use strong password, they are using some other certificates kind of thing. So catching SHA password too. So I will go with the legacy authentication method for now, right now. Because so this is the password you have to choose for your root user. Okay, so every database will have a root user, and internally they will create this root user will create so many other users. Okay, so suppose I am installing the MySQL server in my system, and I am the root user. Okay, so I can create so many other users in the MySQL database, and I can provide the access for them. So what they are capable of, like I can provide the read access to some customers and write access to some customers and full access to some other users. See, it will all depend on me. So I'm the root user, right? So root user, you have to you should have a password for your root user. Okay, so select a password here, and don't write it down somewhere. Otherwise, if you forget this, you have to uninstall this server and you have to reinstall again. Okay, so something like Satya at the rate 2022. Check the password strength. Current root password. I think it is asking the root password for my earlier installation. Okay, let 1 minute.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so let me start installing the installer. I will click on yes, yes, developer default. So I'm selecting this option developer default. Okay, so shows all product needs for MySQL development process purpose. Okay, so this install client and connector and server 3 it will install. Okay, so it will install MySQL server, the first option, and MySQL shell and MySQL router also it will install. Workbench, Visual Studio Code, everything it will install. So let me select the server only. Only it will install MySQL server. Okay, so just I'm selecting MySQL server only for now. Okay, so workbench and other things we will keep installing in the later classes. Okay, so just now I select only server option, MySQL server. Go next. So I got the option MySQL server 8.0.15 and yes, execute. Next, execute. Okay, it is installed. Click on next. Configuration, same W306 port. And click on next. I'm using the strong Lexi password. Again, it asks me the old password. Let me try with Satya. Not working. So I forgot my old password. That is the problem. It is asking me my old password. If I reinstall also, it is asking me the same password. Okay, so right now I'm not able to remember my last password and it is asking me to enter the old password. Okay, somehow I forgot this password, so right now I'm not able to continue this installation. Okay, so maybe I will show you tomorrow. Like I will try to do a complete uninstall and I will try to install this. Okay. I get my SQL and it won't open. Without setting that password, it won't open. I have the server installed in my system, but as I didn't set the password, right? So installer community client. Okay, fine. So that is fine. So I will show you like how to install the server tomorrow. Okay, for now, like as I forgot that old password, so I'm not able to set the new password for this my SQL server. Okay, so like I want to show you like how to create the database and table in the database for today. Like okay, so today I will tomorrow I will try to take 20 minutes more, and I will show you. I will cover the extra part which we are missing today. Okay, so tomorrow I will start with the DDL commands. So and I will show the installation and what we are missing in the today's class. I will cover that first, and after that I will cover the tomorrow's class. So tomorrow like it will be 30 minutes more compared to regular time. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you, and we'll meet again tomorrow at the same 7 o'clock tomorrow. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.